Welcome to the Up in Your Family Business podcast, where we dive into the heart of family business with intimate interviews, expert insights, inspirational stories, valuable resources, and practical tips to help grow your family business. If you have been following this podcast since the beginning or even caught the first episode, you may recognize the face and or voice of today's guest. Making her second appearance is my business partner, Tammy Coleman. Welcome back, Tammy, to the Up in Your Family Business podcast.
Thank you very much.
Tammy's extensive experience and knowledge in the marketing world, especially about today's topic, will make for a fun conversation and will be very beneficial to you, our audience, and your family businesses. So what are we talking about today? We are talking about unlocking growth, building a marketing roadmap for achieving business goals. In this podcast, we explore the challenges and opportunities associated with having company goals, but lacking a clear path to achieving them due to marketing deficiencies. We will discuss the importance of building a marketing roadmap so you can unlock growth and effectively achieve your business goals. So with that, let's just go ahead and jump on in. So if you would, Tammy, do me a favor and provide an overview of what it means to quote unquote unlock growth in the context of building a marketing roadmap.
Okay, so in my opinion, unlocking growth means uncovering information. When we think about growth, we think about making plans and making set goals and steps that we want to achieve. And I think without having the proper data and information, you cannot do that. And so to me, unlocking growth means uncovering data and really looking at not only the opportunities for a business, but also where are the gaps, and really finding those roadblocks and finding those pathways to achieving growth. And so that's what it means to me.
Okay. You mentioned data and information. Could you expound on that? Like what kind of information, what kind of data?
So, in the context of a business and looking at branding and marketing, to me, data is, a lot of people think of just like that external data when you're looking at your customers only and that external marketing plan. For me, data is, when in the context of business growth, is really the internal piece as well. And so really looking at your whole business when you're trying to unlock growth, where are the opportunities? It may not just be in your customer side, but it might be internal, and really looking at your customer care processes, your department communication processes, whatever those customer touch points are, and business operational processes are, because all of that information speaks to growth and will impact one way or another, negative or positive. So
in order to achieve goals and unlock that growth, why is it so important to have a roadmap?
Yeah, well, because you need to have a final resting place, I guess is what I would say. So there's this article I read in LinkedIn a while back, and it's a really great story, and I'm going to have to paraphrase because I'm terrible about retelling stories. But the idea is you have this goal, you have this place that you're trying to get to, and whether personal or in business, you set this destination, this goal. And when you're walking towards this goal, when you're working towards this goal, if you're looking straight ahead at this horizon where your goal is, you never really notice movement. You just walk and walk and walk, and you don't really see any change until you turn around and you look behind you and you see all the places that you have passed. And I feel like a roadmap is that context, that deliverable, that tool that we use to get to that goal. Because when you create a strategy and a roadmap, it gives you benchmarks and places that you can see, oh, we've achieved this, now we've done this, and we've achieved this, and you've got this big goal, but you've got these steps that you're taking to achieve that goal. And as you move past those and you achieve them and you finish them and you execute them, you see movement, and you see that movement towards that goal. And so I think that's why a roadmap is so important.
And this applies to financial, like we talk a lot about goals, financial goals, right? A percentage of growth or things. But this applies to goals of any kind, right?
Goals of any kind. I mean, you could be, we want to try and reach this new audience, or we want to improve our efficiencies by X percent, or we want to achieve this growth in revenue, 10% growth, whatever. It can be applied to anything, but any goal that you have for a business, you need to have a roadmap to get there. You need to have a plan, because if you don't have that, then how do you know you've achieved it? How do you know even how to achieve it? Or what are you measuring against to see, are you doing it the most efficient way? So that's why that roadmap is so important.
Whenever I hear the word roadmap, I visualize, and I'm not sure if our audience, if this happens to them as well, but sometimes for me, when I hear roadmap, I feel like in terms of marketing, a roadmap is equivalent to a strategy, a plan. Like I need a path, so I need a roadmap, so that way I can see my journey unfold. Is a strategy in the terms of achieving goals, and as it specifically relates to marketing, branding and marketing, is a strategy the same as a roadmap, or are they distinctive? And if so, how are they distinctive?
Yeah. So
I know I hit you with a big one.
Well, I guess the way I look at it is this. So we talked about at the very beginning having data and having information to create that roadmap, right? So when you have your data, let's just say this data is about your customer, right? And so you have this understanding about your customer, but we also talked about the internal. So you also have this data about your company and how your company functions and how it relates to your customer. That information does two things. It helps you create a strategy, and it helps you create a roadmap. So I think they're two distinct things, because you need to understand how your brand functions as a brand, what its culture, how it communicates, what its processes are, what its ethos is, what its goals are, all of those things, right? Like, this is who we are as a brand and what we want to achieve. Then you need to understand your customer. What matters to them, what motivates them, how do they behave, what are they looking for, what do they need? When you understand those two things, that allows you to create that roadmap, which is the touch point. Those are the touch points. How does our brand relate to our customer? So what are the touch points that we need? And then how does our customer react? How do they behave? What motivates them? That is your strategy. And so I think they're two very distinct things that intertwine to look like one big strategy. But it's really, it's bridging the gap between your brand and your customer, and finding the opportunities and finding the areas where maybe you're struggling, where there's weakness, where there's opportunity for improvements, whatever. You're bridging those gaps between your customer's buyer's journey and your business roadmap.
All right. Well, I threw you a curveball and you hit a home run.
There you go.
That was nice. I love that. Honestly, like sometimes it is hard to distinguish between a roadmap and a strategy, because we see it as this long-term plan. But as I hear you speaking, a strategy is built within the roadmap. And honestly, without that roadmap, I'm not sure you can effectively do that strategy, because from what information, what are you looking? You're not able to see the big picture. You're not able to see everything in front of you, and you don't have all that information and data. So your strategy could be flawed. Yeah. There could be holes and gaps in your strategy. So when we think, I have a strategy in place, maybe you do, but what's that built upon?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think businesses also, they have all these great assets that they're like, I don't know how to use these, or they create these assets and they just blast them out. You always hear about that shotgun versus rifle approach to marketing. And it's like, it's finding the right way to utilize the business assets in the most optimal, with the most optimal efficiencies, I guess. And it's like, these are all the great things about your business. And then these are the areas that need improvement. And then these are all the ways that your customer behaves. And let's put those together like a puzzle piece. You've got your customer. I'm actually writing a little ebook about this right now. So I envision it like your audience, your customer, is a puzzle piece, and they've got four sides, and some are internal where you put the piece in, and some are external that fits into a piece. And then your business is the same. Your business has 4 sides in different unique ways. And it's finding that roadmap is the tool that helps you connect those pieces. It's which side of your business fits with which side of this customer. And your business probably has multiple customers. So maybe you're serving the boomer generation, and you're also serving the millennial generation, and you need to serve them differently, and they need different information. It's still one business, but it's multiple ways that you strategize to connect with that audience. And so that roadmap helps you identify the right ways to connect with your audience and develop a strategy to do so. So I think that's, and so those puzzle pieces, your boomer is going to have those, you're going to connect on a different side than you are with the millennial on that puzzle piece scenario. So that's the way it visually shows in my head.
Okay. I have 2 follow-up questions to what you just shared. So the first one is, and I know you can't speak for everybody, but what have you witnessed? What have you observed from people who don't have a roadmap? If they, they're just out there just willy-nilly, just guessing and hoping, that might be a stretch, but people who just don't have they don't have that roadmap, and they're not building that strategy from that roadmap. What are some of the outcomes and mistakes that you see?
Yeah, well, one company that we worked with was exactly that. It was very eeny, meeny, miny, mo with their marketing, and that's literally how they described it to us. So if you don't have a roadmap, then the first issue is accountability. Who's doing what? All right. So we have no plan for what we're doing to engage with our audience. So that would be the first thing is there's no accountability. There's no one who is taking the reins with the marketing. Now, if there is someone who's taking the reins of the marketing and they still don't have a roadmap, it's like, well, I'm accountable to it, but I don't have a plan in place. They will typically adapt to whatever is trending. Here's the typical thing. I need to do digital advertising. I need to be doing social posts on these platforms. I need to be doing email marketing. I need to be writing blogs. And all of those things could be correct for your brand. The question is, how are you positioning them? How are you doing, what are you writing in your blogs? What kind of social posts are you doing? Where are you targeting your digital advertising? If you don't have a roadmap, then it still becomes this, eeny, meeny, miny, mo approach, because there's no good plan in place with how these work together. And you could be siloing your marketing. So it's like, okay, well, we're going to write these 3 blogs, and that's done over here. And now we're going to do these social posts, and that's done over here. And there's no good connectivity or story or strategy or, analytics, that ties it all together. So those are some of the mistakes I see businesses doing.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you. I want to be singing eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by its toe all friggin' day. But the only favor I have is I want to thank you for now the song I heard on a commercial yesterday is now gone.
There you go.
So thank you. So thank
You're
you.
welcome.
All right. So we've talked about customer, client. You've touched on audience a little bit. So how crucial, like we sell a service, we sell a product. You're talking about this roadmap. How crucial, how critical is it to being able to identify who your audience is and really understand your audience? What part does the audience play in this whole roadmap?
Well, they play 50%.
50%.
50% of this roadmap.
Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah, I think a lot of businesses don't understand the shared process of selling your service to your customers or selling your product, because businesses, they need to be positioning their service in a way that is true to who they are and represents their brand, but also is something that matters to their customer. And so when you're asking, how much of a role the customer plays in knowing your customer, where I say it's 50% is because you've got to really understand who they are and what motivates them and bring that to them. And then, on their side of it, then they make the purchase. I don't really know how to answer. Ask it to me in another way, that question, if you would.
What good is your roadmap without knowing your audience?
Okay, that's a good way to ask it. What good is my roadmap without really knowing my audience? And I'd say it is no good, because your roadmap is based on how your audience, what motivates them, what behaviors they exhibit in the way that they purchase. Those two things really, like I said earlier, those two things really work together. And for companies that aren't taking the time to do the research, to really learn about their customer, and there's multiple ways you can do that, whether it's through Net Promoter Score, whether it's through focus groups, surveys, interviews, one-on-one conversations. All that information feeds into your roadmap, because now with that data, I know where my customer is learning about me. I know how they're vetting for my service, and especially with B2B businesses, it's buying an ice cream cone is completely different than choosing a lawyer, right?
Sure.
And so it's super important for, I think, professional service businesses especially, because you need to understand what their vetting process is. What matters to them? Is it peer reviews? Is it experience? Is it certifications? When you learn more about your customer, that allows you to put together a roadmap that is, again, true to your brand, but that resonates with the needs and desires that your customer has to make a purchase decision.
Okay. By the way, that was my second follow-up question, so you answered that.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go. Okay. So how you shared some strategies or tactics you can use to know your audience, but to really know your audience well. As we know, you mentioned about trends come in, the market changes, people's behaviors change based on where they are in their life. And we talk a lot about demographics and things, but we're talking about human behavior here. We're talking about wants and needs. Yeah. Competition comes in. So to really know your audience, like how often should you be doing that? Like how often should you be checking in to get feedback and input from your customers and your clients?
I think some of that depends on your goals. So there are companies that do these Net Promoter Scores, and like after, every week they're like sending out this little quick, how did we do on this? Which is a piece of the bigger research. But I think in general, when you're looking at like really understanding your audience, I think at least every 2 years you should be doing a thorough review of your audience. And it doesn't have to be, everything, focus group, one-on-one interviews, and survey. It doesn't have to be that big. We just went through this with our own clients where just because now we're finally like a good year out of the pandemic and things have, and I can't wait to be mentioning that.
At least we think so. I still hear people talking about we're still recovering from it.
We are to a degree probably, but I think the dust has settled. And so now it's time to reevaluate, because just during that time, people have changed the way they shop. Sure. Before the pandemic, I never bought groceries online. The Instacart. I love Instacart, and I maybe go to the grocery store 2 or 3 times a year now. It has shifted the way, and I'm 50 in a week. And so I'm older, and it's like, that has really shifted the way I shop. Some of the things that have changed during the pandemic changed the way I shop, and that's going to be true across the board. And so, learning how, people change. You mentioned, people retire, and so you're losing some of your audience every year, and younger people are coming in, like we mentioned, and so you're getting new people in, and they want different things. They have different motivations. Millennials and the younger generations are going to care more about what we're seeing anyways. They care more about community. They care about transparency and authenticity in a brand. Whereas boomers and Gen X, we shop differently just because of how we were raised. And so it matters to really understand those dynamics. And I think at least every 2 years, you're going to see some kind of shift, whether, again, we talked about the pandemic, but you've had inflation, we've had soaring housing prices, increased rent. And so people have to make decisions on how they're buying. And that can, depending on your industry, affect your business. And so understanding those shifts within a consumer's personal lifestyle will impact not only how you market, but how the language that you use, how you message, because maybe you need to have a shift in your marketing content to be more empathetic, to be more, patient, whatever the type of language is, but not so salesy. But hey, we hear you and we understand you, and we're doing this with our business with you in mind, because we understand the struggles that you're dealing with. And that kind of marketing may matter based on the data that you gain from your customers. So when you say like how important is it? It depends on your industry, of course, but it's always important because the goal, I think, for any business is to have a relationship with their audience. You go into business with a passion and with a purpose. And I don't think most people's reason for starting a business is just money, because you can make good money in a job, usually at least more money than you're going to make as an entrepreneur, right? And so starting out as an entrepreneur, you're making nothing. And so unless you have some huge, capital funds, whatever, but then you still owe money. So, I mean, you go into business with a purpose. And so I think the nice thing about doing that research is you're re-engaging your audience and understanding their need, and you're reinvigorating your purpose as a business. And you're making those connections. And I think at the end of the day, that is what we want. We want to connect with people that really value our business and our brand. And we want to make sure that we're sharing our value and our brand so that we're connecting with those right customers, those right fit customers, is what I like to call them. And so it's a whole ecosystem, research and learning and creating strategy and executing on that strategy and building that relationship. And it's an ecosystem in my mind.
So it's possible for people who might see themselves transactional business, not in all cases. Some businesses are commodities and nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Some businesses are transactional, but there could be some businesses out there that don't have to be transactional. They can be more relational.
I think a lot of times companies work themselves into becoming a commodity, because they're discounting their prices to get new customers, and they're not focused on their current customer as much, or, it's become a much more competitive landscape. So they're like, oh, we just have to drop our prices. And they're missing the opportunity of really selling the value of their company, or I don't know, what is unique to your company? What is your differentiator? Why did you start the business? And I think some businesses, I'm selling ice cream cones, could see be seen as a commodity, but maybe your ice cream store is giving, $1 back to this nonprofit for every cone that's sold, or we're hiring, certain types of people that, are less advantaged. There was this company I read about years and years ago, but it really impacted me because their whole business model was hiring people who were ex-cons. And I think it was something
I just read that recently.
Yeah. And I was like, that is super cool, because the product they sold, it could be seen as a commodity, but what they're doing is they're giving a second chance to people who need it. And that will resonate with a certain demographic for sure, that can be an ethos for that business that now decommoditizes them because of the way they've structured their business. And I think that's something that people should be looking at.
I also think, and I think the roadmap would uncover this as well if you're doing it effectively, but yeah, you're right. Ice cream itself kind of is a commodity, but the outside of the store, that matters. The service you get when you're inside matters, right? The cleanliness of the store
100%
inside matters. So there are a lot of things that go into that for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing when you're looking at building a strategy and a roadmap. You've got this macro version of your marketing, which is, the typical things, SEO, digital advertising, email marketing, storefront, pop signs, whatever. And then you've got this micro, or all the things that support that strategy and the messaging. I always use this as an example. So search engine optimization, people feel like, oh, I need to invest in SEO. What they're not looking at are maybe their reviews. And so I'm driving people to my Google Business Profile page, or, I'm trying to rank number one. But when they get to my page, my GBP, they see, oh, I've got a 2.5 rating with, 15 reviews. And then my competitors have a 4.8 or a 5.0 with more reviews, or even less reviews, fewer reviews, but they've got a better rating. Those are the micro things that that matter. And so when you're looking at all those pieces that you just shared with the roadmap,
The experience.
yeah, that roadmap finds the micro steps that go alongside your just general macro marketing. And so it's looking at what matters to your customers. Well, yeah, I found you through SEO, but what made me decide to buy from you was your reviews and your experience and that customer testimonial video that you have on your homepage. And so it's looking at that bigger, like, what are the assets, back to that, what are the assets that can help service my general marketing? What are my goals as a business? What motivates my customers? All of those things are part of that roadmap and that strategy that link together.
I don't want to oversimplify all that you shared, because it's all been really valuable, but never take your customer or client for granted. Never assume anything. It's the more you know, the better.
Always the more you know. I mean, there's never a bad time to get data, and there's never a wrong time to get it, in my opinion, because even, in fact, we had one client that had gone through some negative situations with their business, and they were concerned about doing interviews, because we wanted to do them soon after so we could benchmark that and then learn from that and then grow from that. So they allowed us to, and we did the interviews, and we gained insight into why these negative touch points, how they negatively impacted the customer. And then we were able to put strategies together to fix those things, because we knew there were issues, but we didn't know all of the information. And so it really gave us granular data into what we needed to fix. And then we had that as a benchmark. And so then we went back 6 months and did more interviews and learned from that and saw the growth, saw the positive change, went back again 6 months later and learned and just continued to see the improvements. And, back to my story, way when we opened up about that horizon and going towards that goal, data can serve as benchmarks for seeing, are you achieving your goal? Because the client needed to achieve X, in correcting the issues. But how do they know they got there? Without doing those interviews and uncovering that data at key times throughout the year, we wouldn't know that they've achieved growth, but we wouldn't have a roadmap to doing that, because we wouldn't know how it negatively impacted the customer. We could only assume how it was negatively impacting them. And so, yes, to simplify, the more knowledge, the better, because a lot of businesses make decisions based on assumptions. Again, these are the marketing trends. This is what I should be doing for my marketing. I assume that these things are good for my business. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But why guess? Why potentially waste money on marketing when you can take the time to do the research and really learn, and then be targeted in your strategies and know that you're investing in the right places, know that you're building the right assets to properly reach your audience, build those lasting relationships with them, and really have good touch points that that engage them in the right way to reach those goals.
One of the things that I read a lot about in the world of family business, and it's a challenge, no matter how successful a business is, there's always it's a strong word, always. There can be a struggle with the switch from generation 1 to generation 2, generation 2 to 3, and so forth. And the reason why is because it's not necessarily the next generation wants to make change for the sake of change. It's just that, and I think you touched on this a little bit, each generation looks at the world differently.
Yeah.
Each generation experiences it differently. They have different needs. So as a business owner, we're a part of that generation that we represent. The customers we serve could come from that same generation or others, right? So one of the things I've really seen, it's hard. I mean, you can get all the financial pieces in place, all the legal stuff in place. It's very hard for previous generations to let go of the quote unquote the way we've done business.
This has always worked for us.
Right,
It's always worked for us, and so why change it?
Right.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit earlier about when you do this, maybe every year, every 2 years, but there's a specific moment in time that it's really critical for this, I believe. So I'd like to hear how you feel about evaluating or creating a roadmap as it relates to the changing of the guard, because again, it's not a disrespect thing. It's not for the sake of change. It's just that I want to conduct business this way based on what I've learned, what I know, what I've experienced, what I've seen. So tell me how a roadmap, focusing on a roadmap and building that roadmap could help in that and passing that baton from one generation to the other.
Yeah. Well, there are a couple things that come to mind. One is when a new generation is coming in as business owner, they're going to have certain goals. So the previous generation might have had specific goals for the company. A new generation, this next generation business owner, they will have different goals, like you said, based on the way they perceive the world and also based on how they interact with the world. So a younger generation interacts very differently than maybe, a millennial interacts differently than a Gen X. What's the generation before millennial, the coming after millennial? I'm drawing a blank.
So Y?
Gen Y.
It's X, but
Can
millennial,
never keep
Y.
track of them all.
I don't know. They jump around.
It's the generation that my kids are, and I don't know what it's called.
I think they're Z.
Z, yes,
They're
thank
Z.
you.
They're Z.
Drawing a blank on that. But again, they interact very differently than what Gen X does. And so the new generation business owner is going to have different goals, just even based on the technology that they engage with and what they know. And just the shifts, like even in social advertising, TikTok has gone gangbusters. And so, a Gen X may not be as keen on that as like a millennial. So that would be one thing, is just doing that, building that roadmap for their new goals, their new skill set. Let's see, what else? What other reasons? I mean, the bandwidth is going to be different. And so maybe this new generation business owner comes in with a different plan of org chart even. I want to focus more on our marketing. The generation before really focused on word of mouth, but marketing was different, 20, 30 years ago. And if they've just kept it the same way that they've always kept it, and they've done okay because they have such a loyal customer base, then that's great. But typically when a business changes hands, there is going to be a shift in loyalty from the customer. Oh, I've always worked with Bob and I love Bob, and now he's not there anymore. So now I have, as a customer, an opportunity to leave and go to a different competitor. And so that is going to play a big role in what the goals are for the new business owner. They might have a plan to emphasize more on communication or more on marketing. And so whatever the change is that they have, the vision that they have for their business, they need to have a plan. And so that's why that roadmap, that research that builds that roadmap is so important, because like I mentioned earlier, it's not just about your customer, it's also about your business. What are you changing inside the business that's going to affect how you do business, how you engage with your customers? Maybe there's a cultural shift. A lot of companies have gone more remote. That changes the way your culture is, the way your business conducts business, really, how you do business. And so even at those times, doing that research and developing that roadmap to adjust for the change that's happening in the business is crucial. So I think, anytime that you change hands, it might not even be a new business owner, it might be a new GM. We just experienced that with one of our clients where they hired a new GM. So we had to go in and reevaluate everything. And what are your goals for this business? And what do you want to achieve? And what do you see? And when a new person comes in, they might have insight into how the operations were being done that might be negative. Before I came in, all of this was wrong and this was not done properly and we need to adjust this. And so anytime there's a change of the guard, I think it is very important to have research done.
One of the biggest fears that employees of a family business have is because legacy and values are and culture are so important to family businesses, right? So I think people expect change, but maybe they don't. I mean, like if it's a family business, I don't know what goes through employees' minds of second, third, fourth generation. I've never actually spoken to one. I can only speak to what I've read. But like I know there's a fear factor. So it's like, is our culture going to change? Are things going to change in the way we conduct business? Are we still going to be feel like a family business other than just the structure? So the roadmap is primarily about knowing your audience and your customer. If you don't mind, and hopefully I'm not throwing you a curveball here, but do you mind speaking? You touched on it a little bit. Can you expound just a little bit more on that element? Is when it comes to the roadmap, how can the roadmap help to address that change specifically in terms of how it affects your employees? Do you want to get input from them? Is that important? How does that process work?
Yeah. So when the internal interviews are conducted, we learn a lot about the brand as a whole. So we learn about the mission, the values, their brand promise, how they do business, the respect factor internally, like what their culture is, how do they treat their team members, how communication functions internally.
Very cool.
And it's important to understand from the business owner, the C-suite. It's not even just the owner. I mean, it's the whole C-suite, and really understanding what the vision is. I can't imagine any business really wants to have a poor culture, right? But I think sometimes that happens because they don't do the research and they don't really understand where negative touch points are internally. Excuse me. I think learning how team members view the culture, view the care of the leadership, open door policy, all of that matters. And because that helps the business even, internally, we talk about external roadmap and for marketing strategies, but what do we need to do internally to ensure that we have a good culture, that the work that we're doing aligns with our mission, aligns with our brand, and that we really understand and know who our brand is. A lot of our clients use that roadmap, that internal part, as team building tools. They use it for hiring. So when they're bringing on new employees, that is a piece that they have to read through, that brand portion of that research, because it really speaks to who they are as a company, what the expectations are, the expectations they have for them as a company, but also the expectations they want to set for their customer and how they treat their customer, all those pieces. So it's a big part of, again, reaching that growth goal as a company. Because if your internal is not solid, and if your team members aren't representing your brand the way they should be, that will negatively impact your growth goals because it'll impact your customers negatively. You talk about, our business brand promise is this, and ABC, whatever, and our goals are this. That's all great. But if John Smith, who is in the front line of your store, right? And let's just say Verizon store, and I come into your Verizon store and I'm getting poor service, and this guy is on his phone talking with whoever and not representing the brand well. As a customer, my viewpoint of your brand is negative because of that one employee. And so it's very important for businesses to have something where they can bring their customers back to say, this is our expectation of you. This is who we are as a brand. This is who we are as a culture, as a company. And this is our expectation of how you represent us. But if they don't have that roadmap and that tool to do that, then, John Smith is left to his own devices to decide how he acts at the store. And a lot of businesses do that. They're like, they just trust their employee to be a good employee. But if their employee doesn't really know what they're representing and how to represent it, then they're just going to default to who they are as a person, which may be fine. They might be a great person, but they may not be. And so that roadmap piece is really important for that aspect of a company.
Okay. Let's shift back. Let's get back to the term marketing. What are some things to keep in mind or consider when you're looking at the marketing channels within a roadmap? And you may have addressed it a little bit, but I want to make sure we circle back to the marketing side.
Okay, so what are things to keep in mind? Well, I think one is, does it align with your goals? Again, don't just do it because it's popular.
Yep.
Do it because it is something that's going to positively showcase your brand, and it's a tool that your consumers are engaging with. If they're not, then don't do it. It just doesn't make sense. We don't want to do marketing just for busy work.
Yep.
So I think that is the biggest thing, is just understanding what are the right tools for your business. But also on top of that, I think one thing that people don't consider is bandwidth and budget. Because certain tools may be great to use, but you may not have the bandwidth to do them and to do them effectively. Whether it's a podcast, hey, we want to do a podcast, but we don't have time to do a 1.5 hour interview every week, or we just don't have enough people to interview or whatever, then don't start it. If it's something that you're not going to be able to do long term, don't start it, because that actually ends up hurting your brand more than helping your brand. So I think looking at your bandwidth, do you have the bandwidth to do it? Do you have the right team members in place to do it well? Hey, we want to do blogging, but we don't have a good content writer on our team to do this blogging, or we don't have the right people to be able to upload it, or we don't have the money to pay someone to do it. Then, even if it might be right, it may not be right for you right now. And so I think when you're looking at the tools that you want to use, will they represent your brand well? Are they the right tools to represent your brand? Do your customers use them and engage with them? And do you have the right team members to do it effectively and consistently? Those are the things I think that should be evaluated before you decide on them.
Right, and that's one of the nice things when you're getting feedback from your customers. They'll tell you what matters.
Yeah.
They'll tell you where they're finding you, and you can, again, based on your budget and bandwidth, you can make adjustments.
Yeah, and one thing I would also say, just because we're kind of experiencing this right now with a new client that's come to us, is looking at, if you're outsourcing your marketing and your marketing company is bringing these recommendations to you, ask them why. Because I think it's important. I think I shared earlier where when we look at how companies sometimes can become commoditized, or not commoditized, but really focusing on lead gen only and not their current customer. And I feel like sometimes marketing companies force businesses to focus on lead gen. They're like, oh, we need to do this advertising. We need to do this certain thing to drive more leads, because it shows the ROI and the worth of the marketing company if they can bring in leads. But I guess all that to say, a marketing company may not have your best interests at heart. And they're wanting to focus on what their strengths are versus what makes sense for your business. And so I would say, ask the marketing company, why are we doing these things? Where is the data that says that these are the right tools? I think that's why research is so important to me, because, when we started this company, that mattered. Clients would come to us and say, oh, I need a website built. And the first thing I would do is say, well, okay, how do we need to position this? How is this going to be effective for you? And so I started doing the research before it was even really a deliverable of our company because I wanted to make sure it was effective for our clients and that it was built in a way that was effective for our clients. And so I would say to businesses, when you're bringing in a marketing company, ask them why. Is what they're proposing going to be the most effective tool for your business? Those are also things to look at.
So even if so obviously you have a partnership. So I want to make sure I hear what you're saying. So is it accountability? Is it obviously clients? You want your clients to trust you. So is it something like in the middle? So clients trust you. We trust you what you're recommending.
Mm-hmm.
We're not necessarily holding you accountable, but what's going on in the process when they say, "Tell me why"? Why is that beneficial to you as a business? Because obviously you trust the people that consult, right?
Yeah.
But you also don't want to just hey, I trust you. I don't have any questions. Just do what you do.
Well, I think
how do you what's that fulfilling?
I think sometimes it's not nefarious. I think a business owner can say, I'm going to hire ABC Marketing Company to do our marketing. And ABC Marketing Company focuses or specializes in SEO, blog writing, and email marketing, let's just say. Like they're content driven, maybe that marketing company thinks, well, they must have done their research and know what I do, and they're hiring me. So if they're hiring me to do this, then they must want SEO, blog writing, and email marketing, right? So it might not even be nefarious. It might just be a lack of communication between the two, and it's like, well, I'm going to hire this company to do my marketing. And this company's like, well, this is what we do. And so this is what we're going to do for you. And it may not be the right fit. That's why I think research is so important, because you want to know the tools that you're implementing are going to be the right fit. I think sometimes other marketing companies just feel like, hey, this is what we do, and we're trying to sell these services, and I'm selling my services to you, and you're saying, yes, great, so this is what we're going to do.
Makes sense.
But there's no data behind it.
Right.
And there's no even if email marketing is right, are you saying the right things in your email? Do you have the right strategy? Even if blogging is right, are you doing the research to know what your customers are really wanting to know about your services? What questions are they asking, to be writing those blogs around, to have it be an actual valuable resource to your customer versus, difference between this shingle and this shingle. Maybe your customer doesn't care. If you're a renovation company and you're blogging about the different kinds of shingles, your customer doesn't care. They're not hiring you because
they
of
care about
the shingles. They care about your quality and the whole renovation as a whole. And so just thinking through, the why behind what you're doing and asking your marketing company, why are we doing it this way? Don't be afraid to do that. I think a lot of businesses are, and they blindly trust. And then they come back and say, well, this isn't working. Why is it? And nobody really knows why. And so that's why research is really so important. But, back to your question about the tools, I think it's important to ask the why, because it's important to understand why you're using those tools. And don't just blindly go in because they're the popular tools or they're the tools that your marketing company is selling.
Yeah. So that's a great answer. I don't think... When I was asking that question, it sounded right in my head, and I'm like, I really want to ask this question. So you did a good job of dissecting my question and answered it really well. And it's, as I'm hearing you, it's really interesting. I think this would be a good way to bring it full circle, though we do have just a couple more questions. That's why the research, that's why it matters. That's why the roadmap matters, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not just for the benefit of the customer or the client. It benefits the marketing company.
Yeah.
Because you have a good roadmap ahead of you. You know why you're doing, and then you can justify and explain it. Hey, back to the roadmap. This is what our customer told us. This is what our employees told us. So it's beneficial for both the marketing company and the company that you serve.
There's data behind what you're doing, and asking why. You may feel like you're bothering your marketing company, but if they don't like that you're asking why, then they are not the right company. They're not the right company. It's important. It's important to understand why you're doing what you're doing, and it's valuable for the business owner to understand why they're investing in certain things, and then how are we measuring that. So I think asking why is crucial.
Hmm. How does the roadmap play a part in being adaptable and agile? Obviously, as businesses, things can change very quickly. So we talked about the timeline when you build the roadmap, how long you keep it. So if you would share how the roadmap is linked to adaptability
Yeah.
and flexibility.
So the purpose of a roadmap is to develop every possible opportunity available, right? So you may have a budget of $50,000 for the year.
Mm-hmm.
So you might not be able to do everything that's on the roadmap, right? The idea is to uncover information from your company, uncover information from your audience, your right fit audience, and also from lost leads to learn why people aren't doing business with you, if that's possible to do,
Mm-hmm.
and then create every possibility, right? Here are all the different ways that your brand can engage with your audience. Here are all the different things, even training. I mean, we'll talk around employee training in these roadmaps and like all the different things that should take place to achieve your goal. And you may only have a budget to do a certain amount of things. So then we look at what are the shoulds and coulds, and what are the important things right now. And then as your business grows, you can add more things in. Or as your budget changes, maybe something happened and all of a sudden we've got to invest in this new POS system, or we need to invest in this new equipment that has now broken down. And so the roadmap allows you to be agile in your marketing because it says, hey, if we have the surplus of revenue, we can add in these things. We can invest back into our marketing and do these different things. Or if we have a deficit in our revenue, okay, now we need to scale back. What is the crucial thing that we cannot stop? And it
Based on the
allows
research
us,
you've
based
done.
on the research, and the roadmap has that whole view. This is everything we're doing. I think a lot of times when people they're doing marketing, they're like, I'm not even really sure what we're doing. And I know some of you who are listening are guilty of that. Like, I'm not sure. Are we doing SEO? Where are we advertising? I'm not sure what platforms we're using. And so it's like if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know where to pull back from, right? And it's just like, we just need to stop all of our marketing. I know a lot of businesses do that, as marketing is the first line item to cut when they have a deficit. But instead of doing that and just carte blanche, we're stopping marketing, the roadmap allows you to look at what you're doing and looking at the analytics. What is the most effective, and what are maybe areas that we could skim back on for right now while revenue is tight? And that's what keeps you agile. Where do we invest? Where do we pull back throughout the year to make sense for our goals and our revenue?
Or where you can ramp up if things are going well.
Yeah. When revenue is high, what can we add to our marketing? When revenue is down, what can we take away? That's how it helps you be agile in your marketing.
Yeah, I like it too. In the roadmap, as I'm listening to you, I thought of it this way. It takes a lot of the stress and anxiety out of decisions, right?
It takes stress away. It takes guesswork. I hate guesswork in marketing because it becomes this I'm just throwing money in this bottomless pit and I don't know where it's going. And that's how people feel with marketing. They don't understand, they're like, where's the ROI? But ROI is important to track even to the specific tools that you're using, so that okay, this is where we can scale back and this is where we can grow. Guesswork in marketing is the worst thing, and it's unnecessary. If you're, I know a lot of people say, well, marketing depends. What should we do with marketing? Well, it depends, and that it shouldn't be the case. I think if you're doing the right kind of data, you should know where you should be investing in your marketing. You should know what tools you should be using. You should know how you should be positioning those tools, and you should know where you should be scaling up and where you should be scaling back. Always.
Yeah, and the roadmap, what's nice about it too, because it's a long-term play, short-term and long-term play, it also eliminates that set it and forget it. A lot of people look at marketing as, let's have a marketing meeting, let's make some decisions, and then let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
With this, I would think with a roadmap, you're constantly visiting it, you're constantly looking at it, you're making decisions ongoing based on that roadmap. So it really does eliminate that set it and forget it mentality.
It also, one thing that a lot of companies don't think about especially if you're in a retainer relationship with a marketing company, are projects. So it's like, oh, we're doing blogging, SEO, digital advertising, email marketing, and they're just kind of that set it and forget it. We're just doing these every month and that's it.
Without really questioning it, without really knowing.
Yeah, and but where are the back to that micro, where are the opportunities that support that? So if your company does this great presentation pitch for whatever, you're a service company and you're presenting, what are the micro opportunities between the time that you have had your first sales conversation with them to the time that you are following up after your contract? There are probably multiple touch points that a company doesn't even think about that really is marketing, that they should be acting on. They should be developing assets and tools for. And so when you think of marketing, you think of these like external lead gen, but you're not thinking about the sales part of marketing and those projects that can be done. So maybe there's a video that's created. Maybe there's a landing page that has your case studies on it, whatever. And so that roadmap helps you find those micro pieces in between. Where are the gaps and touches that we could fulfill and develop? That, and maybe it's, like I said, landing pages, maybe it's a new website, maybe it's an updated logo, maybe it's a sales brochure, whatever. Maybe it's your phone tree, re-recording your phone tree even, and just changing the way your messaging is. All of those things, anything that touches a customer is part of marketing. Anything. The way your customer service handles your clients, your warranties, all of that is really marketing. And I think that's what companies don't really focus on because it's outside of what typical marketing firms handle. But what I love about the roadmap is it uncovers all of those touch points, anything that your customer would engage with. And we look at that as a marketing tool. And so those projects become pieces that are overlooked, that don't have to be overlooked, and that can really help support your business towards its goal.
Okay. Well, this was as much fun as I thought it would be. There's a lot of valuable information.
Yeah.
You made me look good. I said in the beginning you have extensive experience and knowledge, so thank you for sharing that with our audience.
Yeah, I love it.
Now, I do have a closer. I will come back to you here in just a few seconds.
Okay.
I want to do something we started recently called the Dad Joke segment. So this is for the benefit of our audience. I'm making assumptions there. Maybe I should ask our audience. Maybe I should do the roadmap. Make sure.
Do a poll.
I need to ask.
How many people like the dad joke?
Yeah, maybe I should do that. I'll do like 5 or 6 of these, and then I need to ask our audience whether they like it. So that way I can do what we're talking about.
There you go.
At least a small segment. Okay. So if you've seen this before, it's really simple. I'm going to ask you a question, a dad joke, and then I want you to think about it. We're not going to give the answer. As I tell every guest, if you know the answer, Tammy, do not speak it.
I never know the answer. I'm the worst dad joke guesser ever.
Okay, that's true. There are some members, yeah. So, but I love dad jokes, puns, play on words, so I appreciate you humoring me. Pun intended there. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'll ask a question. I want to challenge you to try to figure it out without cheating. Don't look online. Don't look in any dad joke books. And then after this podcast launches, it should be right after you're actually seeing this, just go to our Facebook page and you'll see the answer to the dad joke. So here we go. This one's, today you guys get a bonus. I actually have a dad joke question and then a follow-up as well. So what do you call a cow with 2 legs? What do you call a cow with 2 legs? There's an answer for that one. And then the bonus, keeping with that theme of cow and legs, if the cow has no legs, what is it called? If the cow has no legs, what is it called? So what do you call a cow with 2 legs? That's an answer. If the cow has no legs, what is it called? So just noodle on that for a little bit. And after you've seen this podcast, go to our Facebook page and you'll be able to see the answer.
Well, I'm excited to find the answer because I have no idea.
Okay, good. Okay. And I appreciate you letting me do the dad joke segment when I do it because I don't want to end with a dad joke. I would rather end with our guest speaking. So final question. Do you see any future trends shaping research, shaping this thing called a roadmap? Do you see anything coming up in the future, whether it's technology or the way,
Yeah.
anything along those lines.
There are a lot of changes happening in marketing right now. Obviously, the big one is AI. With content, augmented reality, artificial intelligence, content writing, all of that is a trend that is changing permanently. I would say this is not a in and out trend. This is definitely reshaping the way marketing is being done. I think what businesses need to be careful of is losing the human element. I think AI is meant to augment, but not necessarily take over. And so that would be one. I think relationships, really, we talked about this a little bit earlier, of really not being a transactional company, a transactional brand, but people are really looking for relationships with the companies that they serve, and not like, oh, you're my best friend, but they want to trust. They want to really know that the company I'm buying from is not only authentic, but is community focused. That is world. How do you say it? World engaged, like they're doing things that are beneficial to the community and to the betterment of our world, like pollution and those kinds of things. Just really that they're making a positive impact on the world. That is something that is shifting within the buyer, and something that people are really looking towards. Social marketing, social advertising is continuing to ramp up, as well as influencers. You're seeing more and more, especially on TikTok, but more and more brands are engaging influencers over digital advertising, the traditional advertising. And these are regular people influencers. I think we're seeing a shift from celebrity use of brand promotion. And that's been happening for a while, but we're seeing that so much more prevalently now. So those are some of the trends, I think, that are really taking shape, and I think that are here to stay.
Okay. Well, I lied to you. I said that was going to be my last question. I do have one more question. We talked a lot about roadmap, audience, customer, culture, a lot of these things. So maybe someone listening was, without realizing, they maybe called a roadmap, they didn't know how to define it, but they were thinking about this. Or now after listening to this, they go, man, this is something I need to do. Yeah. It's a big thing to take on. So what advice or suggestions would you make to those out there that are looking to do this, or now are thinking, maybe I should do this? How should they start what's that first step they should take to making this, doing something like this?
Yeah, well, I feel very strongly, and I'm not saying this because this is a service that we do, but I feel that research needs to be done by a third party. I think if they're looking to start the process of gaining insight from their customers and from their team member, it has to be someone outside the company.
Unbiased, objective.
Yeah, one, because of the bias. If the owner is doing it, they're skewed in how they perceive their business already. And getting feedback from customers, the customer's not going to be honest. If you've got a relationship, but as a customer, if you have a relationship with a company owner that you do business with regularly, they're not going to be honest with you about negative things. Employees, definitely not. And so if it's their manager that is getting insight about the department and processes and communication and training and all of that, and it's negative, that reflects poorly on the person doing the interview. So I think the first thing is finding a research company that is, just finding a research company that's not part of your company. So outsourcing that work. And then just making sure that you have your goals really clear, because the goals are what will shape the research. And so you could do research on a myriad of different things. And so it's important to know, what are we trying to capture? So really being clear on your goals and making sure that is exactly what you want before you hire the research company, because it's important to know what you want to achieve, and then understand, does this research company do this kind of research? Because there's certain research that we don't do, that is much larger, big scale, global research. We don't do that. We're not equipped for that. And then these big global research companies may not really focus on brand research.
Right.
And so there's a distinction between the type of company that you would want to hire. Not just, you don't just, oh, I'm going to hire a research company. Make sure that they do the kind of research that achieves the goal that you have for your business. I think those are the first two things. When you get into the process, you need to make sure that the team understands why you're doing it. I think if you're just like, hey, this company is going to call you and ask questions, if the team members aren't well equipped with understanding what the end goal is, I think it does a disservice to the research that the output of the research that you get. So I think the company needs to make sure that the team members understand why we're doing the research and what they're hoping to achieve from it, and that they are very clear that it's anonymous, and making sure that the company that you hire is very clear that this research is anonymous, because if team members feel that that information is going to get back to the business owner, that they said that, they won't be honest. So it has to be anonymous research done. Same with the customers. When the research company is interviewing the company's customers, they need to know it's anonymous. That's super, super important. And we've had that where we have done the research and we let the people know this is 100% anonymous, no one will know. And we've had the business owner ask us for the information. We had to tell them no. That is a no, because God forbid that business owner finds something and go back to the customer and why did you say that? Then all integrity is lost, and that's really bad. So anonymity is super important in this kind of research work. So those would be some of the things I'd recommend.
I'm going to say true to my word. I'm not going to ask any more questions, but if you please share, please share anything else you'd like to. I like for this to end with you sharing something. I've asked you a lot of questions. You've given us a lot of great information. Please share anything that you would like to share. Call it a closing, call it a wrap up, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Anything that you think is important that we haven't covered yet.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I'm going to, because I feel so strongly that research is the first step before you do anything marketing wise in your business. It is so paramount to the decisions that you're going to make. It's paramount to the marketing company that you're going to hire. It's paramount to how you're training your employees even, and giving your employees the best information they have to represent your brand. I think I would close with just saying, if you have not done brand research, I would highly, highly consider it. And yes, obviously that is something that we do, but there are other branding firms, of course, that do research. And so, finding the right company that fits with who you are as a brand is important, and, your culture and all of that is super important. But I would say, if you haven't done it, it is eye-opening and for any business, and you will not be disappointed. Guarantee. Even if you gain insight that is negative about your brand,
which is okay, you should welcome that.
It's important to know. I didn't even know my customers felt this way about this. I didn't know that they didn't like this service. And you gain so much from it that there is really no downside to it. So. That's all I would say is, if you're planning on doing if you're doing any kind of marketing with your company, you should have research as a piece of that marketing strategy.
So basically, go beyond the guessing, go beyond the strategy that might be built on that guessing or assumptions, and create that roadmap that is true to your brand, true to your customer, true to your employees, and really setting that clear pathway towards that growth.
Yeah, because even if you do research, it doesn't mean you have to hire a marketing company to execute on what you find. True. It doesn't. You could have a company do the research, and then you can tackle it internally. You've got that roadmap now. Now start, even if you're only able to do a few things, that's a few things that you're doing based on actual data than over assumptions. And that means you're doing it right and you're investing in the right places. So even if you're a business that has little to no marketing budget, or you've already spent your marketing budget, or whatever the case may be, I think it's a wise step to at least find out what the cost would be to do the research for your company, and start there.
Okay.
At least you have something to make decisions on.
Okay. Well, thanks for being here today.
Yeah,
Thanks
it was
for
very
all,
fun.
Thanks for all that you shared, and I hope everyone, our audience, everyone out there watching and or listening, will find this valuable, and will be able to take some of this information with you and take some action to help unlock that growth and fulfill your goals. So wish you all a good day.